Hello, I'm Simon.
And I'm Dan.
And this is the Wikicast, a podcast where Wikipedia takes us to a random article each week and we talk about what we find. Dan, what are we talking about this week?
This week, Simon, we're talking about Mehmed the Conqueror.
Oh,
well, technically, I guess if I'm going to do the, because it's not Mehmed in Turkish, so I think it's written Mehmed. M-E-H-M-E-D, M-E-D, but he was commonly known as Muhammad al-Fatih the Conqueror.
Right, okay, so lay this on me. This sounds... We've not talked about anything like this before.
Yeah, no, it's cool. So, he was an Ottoman sultan who first ruled for a short time from August 1444 to September 1446, and later from February. At the age of 21, he conquered Constantinople and brought an end to the Eastern Roman Empire. He continued his conquest in Anatolia with reunification and in Southeast Europe as far west as Bosnia.
So he conquered Constantinople in 1453, is that right?
When he was 21, and he was born in 1432. So yeah.
I've actually heard about this dude then. This is Mehmed II.
He is very, very cool. I've been reading through him. Portrait of Sultan Mehmed II, 1448. Yeah.
Jesus! Did you realise this is last week 2 weeks ago it kind of happened. This is the first time we've had a Wikipedia article that one of us has definitely been on before.
The reason that I recognised it as soon as, but I didn't even read anything. I looked at the picture. There's a portrait of him in the National Portrait Gallery, and I've been to the National Portrait Gallery quite recently.
Oh my god!
And I've seen this portrait.
This is the closest we've ever come to an I was waiting for the day this happened because statistically it's very unlikely that we were ever going to get an article that one of us had read before. But I have definitely read this one, and you've actually seen something in this article in the flesh. It finally happened. It only took us 28 episodes.
So I'm going to briefly read you the 2 short paragraphs of his legacy.
Okay, go on.
It's pretty cool. So, after the conquest of Constantinople, Muhammad founded many mosques and religious schools in the city, such as the Kuliya of the Faith Mosque, of the Fatih Mosque. Muhammad II is recognised as the first sultan to codify criminal and constitutional law long before Suleiman the Magnificent. He thus established the classical image of the autocratic Ottoman sultan. His 31-year rule and numerous wars expanded the Ottoman Empire to include Constantinople, the Turkish kingdoms and the territories of Asia Minor, Bosnia, the kingdoms of Serbia and Albania. He left behind an imposing reputation in both the Islamic and Christian worlds. According to historian Franz Barbinger, Muhammad was regarded as a bloodthirsty tyrant in the Christian world and by part of his subjects. Apparently he could speak 6 different languages too.
I mean, he's one of these figures that, I'm pretty sure in some Civ games, he is the ruler of the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah.
And, for anybody to reach, that level, to be the ruler of an entire civilization, it takes clout. And I could totally believe that he spoke a ridiculous number of languages and he was outrageously competent because, he completely changed history. Well, I say he completely changed history. Constantinople was definitely, the Eastern Roman Empire declined for a long time, and he was, the thing that finished it off.
He was reputed to be fluent in Turkish, Serbian, Arabic, Persian, Greek, and Latin.
Well, that's something that was often said about Cleopatra as well, wasn't it? That's something that gets for, I don't know, maybe some people here have heard of Mehmed and thought that he was bloodthirsty, but actually he was, a very learned person. Same thing for Cleopatra, most people
he's
don't know
also,
that.
And as a kind of a leg in from a musical perspective, he's the eponymous subject of Rossini's 1820 opera Maometto II.
Oh, okay. So Maometto is the Italian way of saying Mehmed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. So
he's just a very interesting guy. There's also a whole section on his under family life. It lists his 5 wives, his 4 children, and then there's an entire paragraph on wider sexuality.
Oh, okay. So before we delve into that, because I do want to hear about that. So for the readers at home, this was the ruler of the Ottoman Empire, which was in kind of modern day Turkey and Middle East, right? And he was the person who conquered the last remnants of the Roman Empire.
Yes,
in the Eastern Roman Empire. And then after that, he basically was really influential. Is that a fair assessment of this article?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So now let's talk about what people he wanted to bone. What was his sexuality?
Yeah. So, finding that section again. His he's got a sizable page on Wikipedia.
Is this the longest article we've ever had?
It's pretty hefty. According to the contemporary Byzantine chronicler, oh my god, that's a name and a half.
Go on, I want to hear it.
Launikos Chalkonondiles.
Perfect.
Muhammad took Radu Chel Frumos, Prince of Wallachia, as a lover. As a direct result of this amorous affair, Radu subsequently received the nickname Kelfrumos, the Beautiful, and after the defeat of Vlad the Impaler, Muhammad placed his brother on the throne of Wallachia as a vassal ruler in 1465, demonstrating the closeness between the two. He writes that because he liked the boy, Muhammad invited him to parties and raised the cup with lust, asking him into his bedchamber, and the boy was taken by surprise to see the emperor rushing on him for such a thing and stood against it and did not concede to the emperor's craving.
Wow. Jeez.
What a fucking interesting, kind of weird guy.
You do also realise that Vlad the Impaler was Dracula, right?
Yes, yeah.
So, like, this dude is, like, all over history. Oh, this is so cool! We've actually had an article that we really want to talk about. And like,
also, his portrait, and the one that's in the gallery that I've seen, is fantastic, as I've seen it in the flesh, but also you can't quite appreciate the level of detail in the image on Wikipedia. It's ridiculous. He's a very... Also, in you get the profile box in the top right corner of the page?
Yeah.
With his kind of like... with different stylings of him. So it's... Mehmed the Conqueror, Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, Kaiser-i Rum, the Lord of the Two Lands and the Two Seas.
Mother of Dragons.
Yeah,
King of the First Men.
Unbroken.
Wow. It's funny. So before we recorded the podcast, Dan and I were talking about how, like, you know, we don't have a huge amount to talk about this week because not very much has happened to us. It actually then turned out that we do actually have a fair bit to talk about. But all of a sudden... Of all the corners that was going to come to the rescue for this episode, it's actually the Wikipedia corner. Who would have thought it? Frankly,
it's a very He's an interesting guy, no question.
Okay, so of the other sections, like I feel like we've got an overview and we've looked at one thing that's interesting: his sexuality, which I had no idea about. Anything else that really stands out to you?
He died quite young.
Oh, really?
He was 49.
What did he die of?
Well, it says, so on planning his next voyage, he was planning to overthrow the Mamluk Sultanate of Egypt and capture Egypt and claim the Caliphate. But after some days, he died on 3rd of May, 1481, at the age of 49, and was buried in his, turb, in the cemetery and within the Fatih Mosque complex. There is substantial circumstantial evidence that Mehmed was poisoned, possibly at the behest of his eldest son and successor.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so... This is a bit dark, isn't it?
Yeah.
The news of his death caused great rejoicing in Europe. Church bells were rung and celebrations held. The news was proclaimed in Venice, thus, La Grande Aquila è morta, the great eagle is dead. Hell.
Bloody hell.
This is really cool. This is super, super cool.
Now, this is where the rules of the podcast forbid me from actually looking at the article itself, and I really want to read it.
So he was the 7th Ottoman Sultan, or Emperor.
Yes, there is a difference between Sultan and... Because Sultan... Is Sultan a theocratic title as well? Like, Emperor is purely bureaucratic.
I believe so. He just did a lot of stuff. Oh, I've just scrolled past a portrait of Vlad the Impaler.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually... If I seem a little bit distant, it's because I'm currently reading Vlad the Impaler's Wikipedia article and the section Reputation for Cruelty, which has got a particularly gruesome picture on it of a woodcut from the time of Vlad dining amongst the impaled corpses of his victims. And, yeah. Wow. And when... Oh, this is actually interesting. There's a thing here about when Mehmed sent ambassadors to Vlad... I think basically to order him to pay respect to Mehmed. And there's a quote here from the Historia Pannonica by Antonio Bonfini. Turkish messengers came to Vlad to pay respects, but refused to take off their turbans according to their ancient custom, whereupon he strengthened their custom by nailing their turbans to their heads with 3 spikes, so they could not take them off. Jesus!
There's a quote here from Vlad himself.
Vlad the lad.
Saying, I have killed peasants, men and women, old and young, who have lived in Kutsia and Novoselo, where the Danube flows into the sea, up to the Rahova, which is located near Chilia. Basically, it ends it by saying we killed 23,884 Turks without counting those whom we burned in homes or the Turks whose heads were cut by our soldiers. Thus, your highness, you must know that I have broken peace with him being Muhammad.
Jesus. Well, last week we were talking about nuclear nightmares, and this time we're talking about one of the most bloodthirsty people in history. Oh my god.
This is very, very cool.
I mean, that's one way of talking about it, yeah.
Yeah. I feel removed enough that I can just look down and be like, yeah, this is awesome.
I mean, it is awesome, I guess, but this is really horrifying. Possibly because I'm looking at this picture of Vlad the Impaler being surrounded by impaled people. Bloody hell! Hang on. There's something that's here. There was an eyewitness account that described Vlad as a demented psychopath, a sadist, a gruesome murderer, and a masochist worse than Caligula and Nero.
Oh my god! I've just read another thing. So, also under this wider sexuality, it said he also sent a eunuch to the house of Notaras, demanding that he supply his 14-year-old son for the Sultan's pleasure. When he refused, the Sultan instantly ordered the decapitation of Notaras, together with that of his son and his son-in-law, and their 3 heads were placed on the banqueting table before him.
Oh, gee, it's one thing to be turned down, but have you ever been turned down so hard that you murdered the person who turned you down and their family?
Yeah, and it's not he's not really being turned down. Demanding that he supply his 14-year-old son. I think any father would be like, no, fuck off.
Oh my god, this is so dark. This episode went from 0 to 100 so quickly. Much like the Discord, the Wikicast Discord has been doing recently. I should probably talk about that.
Oh, and then to round it off in the weirdest of just contemporary circles, Dominic Cooper, the actor who was in Mamma Mia.
Yeah.
He plays Muhammad in Dracula Untold.
Oh.
So the film,
is that the most recent one? The one with Daniel Radcliffe?
Yeah.
No, not Daniel Radcliffe. The one with
Gary Shaw directed it.
Who is it? The guy
who
played
Charles Dance.
The guy who played Bard the Bowman was Dracula, wasn't he?
Yeah, Luke Evans.
Yes.
Yeah. John Schwartzman did the cinematography. I haven't seen Dracula Untold. When did it come out?
Very recently.
2014.
Oh my god, not that recently.
But yeah, we've got Dominic Cooper playing our Bud Muhammad.
Oh, Bud Muhammad. I mean, I feel like just by calling him that, you've instantly made yourself more likely to get decapitated. But on your own.
He might struggle, given that he's got a very nice tomb.
Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, where is he buried? Is he buried in Constantinople? Sorry, I mean Istanbul.
He is buried in the cemetery of the Fatih Mosque complex.
And where's that?
In the Fatih district of Istanbul, Turkey.
Ah. I mean, that's cool. To take over one of the great cities of the world and then put your tomb there. Be like, yeah, this is why I'm here. This is why all of you are here, because of me. So build me a fuck-off massive tomb.
They've built him there's loads of stuff named after him. There's this massive bridge that's made after him. There's a whole quarter named after him. There's a mosque named after him. There's loads of different, schools of religious teachings that have kind of tied their allegiance with him.
I was about to say, isn't it weird how they are commemorating somebody who was so bloodthirsty and killed so many people? But then I remembered that we do that literally all the time. Think about how we romanticize Churchill and the fact that he killed millions of people with famine in India, and thought that anyone who wasn't white was sort of subhuman. He has a Cambridge College named after him. It's funny how people's cultural memory can be so selective.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. So I mentioned earlier about the Discord. Dan and I popped on the Discord, didn't we?
We did. Oh my god, we did. What a session that was.
Well, it turned out that we didn't realise that. So we've mentioned before that Dan's Forehead streams the episodes on Twitch every Saturday.
Certainly does.
Lunchtime. And what we didn't realise was that then there's a voice chat on the Discord that people have been on literally all day. They were on it for 12 hours. And we popped on at the end of that. But it was just, I mean, how would you describe it, Dan?
I wasn't ready for the sheer cultural depth to try and plumb those dark and kind of dank depths it was a challenge, because certainly, I mean, you were on a bit before me.
Yeah,
I was heading to bed, and I
hour
thought I got a notification on my phone that I hadn't seen saying Dan's Foreheads is streaming, and I was like, oh, it might be some more crocheting, in which case I'm totally down to listening to that before I go to sleep. But it wasn't. It was this massive chat, and then I heard you were there, and then I kind of just appeared in the chat for a bit and made a couple of comments, and then people cottoned on to the fact I was there, and then eventually, joined, and it was lovely, actually. There was definitely moments that it was, they're so self-referential, that you and I clearly felt like almost kind of like outsiders.
The number of times when it just escalated, and everyone had been into it, and then there'd be like a pause, and one of us would go, "What just happened? What was that?"
It was amazing, though. We had it was nice to kind of names that we kind of see or read out semi-regularly, to actually have conversations with those people and listen to how people first discovered the podcast and why they listen to it and what it means to them, and then also giving opportunities for Simon and me to kind of explain why we do it, and it was really gratifying.
What I thought was funny was when the burning question that I had was like, why are you listening? Like, I did you remember, like, as I said, it's like the producers. It's like, where did we go right? Like, we picked the shittest content. Your two worst hosts you could imagine that get distracted all the time, and like way too long episodes, and yet somehow this has happened. There's this like following of the Wikicast.
Yeah.
And what I loved was the fact that like people were like, yeah, but it doesn't matter that it isn't good. It's like, we can like it despite the fact. And I was like, okay, don't dispute the fact that the episodes aren't like good. It's not a good podcast. It's like you like it despite that, which is touching, I guess, in its own way.
No, it was a pleasure, an absolute pleasure.
It was just something that was kind of discussed, and actually, I think people were getting a little bit emotional, which was quite nice. Like how cool it was to actually be part of an interactive fandom, if you want to call it that, like an interactive community where, like, I think it would be easy for us to sit on our ivory tower and just like look at the small people down below who enjoy listening to the podcast and send us memes and everything like that. But I don't know about you, but I think the best part about it is being an active part of that and talking to people and trying to reduce that gap between creator and consumer. It's certainly what I like about things like the Oxcast, is when you get that interaction on live streams and things like that. So I think trying to do it in other formats is, I don't know, it's just what I would want from a community, It was a truly kind of wonderful, albeit at times slightly strange, mainly because I just think we weren't we hadn't experienced it before. But yeah, it's I totally agree with when you say that whole kind of like reducing this weird wall between someone who puts out content and someone who consumes it. That's why the opportunities to have the Agony Uncle and the Correspondence, and to be able to kind of break that wall down and actually kind of reach out to those who are listening. And when we popped into the chat, that was doing it to a whole new level, because we were actually having a conversation, voice to voice, which I think it makes for a much healthier online discourse, because a lot's been said about parasocial relationships between creators and consumers, and like everything about this one particular person who in return doesn't know anything about you. And it's strange that imbalance. I think it makes for a healthier discourse, but it's only possible at this kind of level, really. Like, to have a meaningful conversation with what was a pretty sizable fraction of our audience in the Discord is only possible when you are as small as we are. It's something that I think, in a way, you can become the victim of your own success, and by doing that, you create a great community, and maybe people want to join more, and it becomes known as this dynamic thing. But then, because it gets bigger, you kind of lose that element,
And speaking of actually being able to kind of like reach out and break down the walls between content creator and consumer, I had a fantastic night out with Dan Hanvey.
Oh yes, yeah, he came down to Exeter.
Top lad, yeah, he came down, and it was lovely because I had work, so he kind of messaged me and said, I'm thinking of getting in around this time. And I said, okay, well, I'm working until quite late, and then I'm doing some music things on campus, so just head to the house. Ed should be in, chill out there. And as soon as I got home, I got to see him, and it was nice. And we went to a party, a 90s themed party, and I believe he put a photo of me in the Discord chat of my 90s look, which was cream Converse, matching double denim, and a fairly garish it was amazing.
Double denim, so were you wearing jeans and a denim jacket?
Yeah.
Oh,
so I had my like cream high top Converse with fairly garishly coloured socks, and then my jeans quite rolled up, so there was a fair bit of ankle on display, but it was sock, obviously. And then a perfectly like the match between the colour of the trousers and the denim jacket, which was one of Ed's things, actually. I don't own a denim jacket. And then a really quite garishly coloured shirt, and then underneath that shirt I had my Louis Theroux t-shirt.
Oh no! That really was 90s then. That's nice.
We did a good job. So we did that, and then I think we went to Dan had to go home because he was getting a fairly early train back the next day, and then we went to Unit 1.
Well, you got recognised, didn't you, the other day in Exeter by a reader?
Yes.
Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, you'd be surprised how often it happens in a club too. There's been times where I'll be standing in a kind of in a vague what in clubbing terms is a queue, which really is just who can push forward to the bar the fastest.
You haven't got boobs, so you're in that queue for a while.
Yeah, but I was sitting there and someone will come up and tap me on the shoulder and go, are you Dan? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, I listened to the Wikicast. I was like, oh, okay. Thanks.
So that's interesting. Does that mean that they only know you from the Wikicast? So they just like, hey, they see you and they think that man looks like what Dan on the podcast sounds like.
Well, they must have seen me through like videos on your channel. But it's all, I think, because you're not there, they say Wikicast because you know there were 2 instances which made me massively cringe. These both happened before Christmas, where people have come up, recognised me, and said, "Are you Dan from Dan and Simon?" And I was if you were there, what? You'd fucking smack the kid who said it.
Should I just say if I was there, I'd just tear them out, not even say anything. Like, I'm sorry, what?
It's crazy, and I think I've mentioned before. There's a colleague of mine who works in the Apple Store, who is the mother of someone who listens. Who's someone who's friend listens to the podcast.
Can we just appreciate the train wreck of that sentence? Do you want to do that?
To be fair, it's a really tenuous connection, which is why I was so surprised when she said it. But basically, somebody listens to the podcast.
Yeah, right.
Contrary to popular belief, we actually have a listener, and that listener's housemate's mother.
Right.
Works in the Apple Store.
Okay, so you know somebody who's
yeah. What? See, don't take the piss out of me. You can't put them together either.
So you know somebody who works with you whose child lives with somebody who listens to the podcast.
There we go. Exactly.
Right. Okay. It's simple.
It happens quite. It's been happening in Pret a bit as well. Pret on campus. I'll be kind of standing in the line, and people will be like, "Oh, I like the videos." I'm like, oh, I don't do them, but cheers.
Yeah, I bet you do. Yeah, you're like, oh, yeah, thanks. I worked really hard on them. Yeah. I mean, at what point? Because I think about this sometimes. Like, I got recognised just yesterday. Actually, I went and got some cash out, but literally by my old school, actually. And a dude,
brag about it.
Brag about it. And he's got cash. Well, I do now. I got it out. And a dude recognised me right by my old school, which is, and he went there. So that was kind of weird. But I was thinking to myself, like, you know, I still definitely don't think of myself as being famous, like YouTube online famous or whatever. What is the point at which you become online famous? Because, like, if you think about, like, objectively the criteria, we've been recognized, yeah, and it happens semi-regularly, yeah, but, like, is there, like, a frequency? Does it have to happen every day before you think of yourself as famous? Or... I don't know
when that point is, and to be honest, I don't want to know when that point is, because I think that's exactly what, you know, like we've been saying, that we're trying to break down that kind of almost, you know, that, you know, big YouTubers and creators, they're good, but I think this definitely, you can tell, you can watch creators, and then there is a sudden change in their content output and the way they talk about themselves, or their kind of manner on camera, where it just becomes quite egotistical.
Definitely, yeah.
And I can't stand that. I absolutely loathe that. You know,
if I get to that point, slap me. I just don't want to be. I mean, you probably would anyway, regardless of what I do. But like, just
if you reach that point on now, I'll just be like, oh, fancied it. But yeah, there's certainly a point when I just do get a bit like, there's some some creators that I follow, like on Instagram and stuff, and you can like chart their output through a year, and when one of them happens to have like a fair bit of success, it just suddenly becomes so forced.
Yeah, it's disingenuous, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I hate that. I can't, why, what I like about being able to kind of, what I think we're really fortunate in having with our readership is that we both, we don't take ourselves seriously. We don't take this podcast particularly seriously. We certainly do in kind of like in its kind of, production and output. But in terms of the actual content, it's just having a chat, and hopefully people enjoy that. And it's like that you're having a conversation with us in the room, and we're just there to be someone to listen to and talk to.
I think the moment when I decided I wanted to do the podcast was at VidCon, when we were at the bar. And do you remember Dr. Shini Samara? Her and her partner were there, and he was just cracking up at everything we did. Like, he just thought that we were hilarious, and we're not doing anything. Like, we're just kind of here. And it was that moment of like Shini saying that like her partner just found everything we did funny. Like, he was just like, just the way you are is just funny with each other. And I was like, I don't know, maybe I remember looking at you and thinking we could make this work as a podcast.
Yeah, definitely. I think we knew from like within. Well, I certainly knew like from within kind of weeks of actually knowing you in my first year that in terms of our kind of sense of humor and way of talking, we were very similar.
Yeah, we just kind of we matched with each other.
Yeah, and that was kind of made all the more terrifyingly kind of like, oh my god, we're kind of the same person when you moved in.
Yeah,
and there'd just be things where like I'd come home after a long musical day, or you'd come home from a long day in the office, and without really having to say anything, we were having a conversation in our own heads. Like, we knew exactly kind of what.
Yeah.
Or if someone does something stupid, like the instances with, this still absolutely cracks me up. I don't know if you can probably hear it in my voice, but when we do the St. Martin's consort gigs. Yeah. So for readers who might not know, over the summer, both in my kind of, we did it a bit in first year, but then it really kind of kicked off in second year. Every Monday evening, for tour groups that would come through as part of the Devon Tours company, Michael Graham, the director of chapel music at Exeter University, would put on a small consort kind of gig in a really tiny, ancient church on Cathedral
literally
Green.
1,000 years old.
Yeah, and it was amazing, and it was really nice, and it was music that we all knew, so it wasn't.
It was the same music every week, Dan. That's why we knew it.
Yeah, with the exception of when he couldn't make it, and he'd tell me an hour before, "Oh, can you sort the music together? Can you get the singers, and can you conduct it? Because I can't." I'm like,
and also his frustratingly non-chronological, nonsensical order. Like,
well, this is why this is what used to crack me up, because you can see in your videos that there'll be a moment where he will have said something, and without skipping a beat, both you and I will immediately and there'll be a completely static quiet, and our heads will just turn to each other quickly and then look back to camera with like oh, that was fucking bullshit, wasn't it, Michael? Well done.
It was so glad to have you having great weather in Devon today, and it's like, it wasn't even like he was being funny, it was just pissing it down. He clearly said it like non-ironically. Just
because he was like thinking about filler stuff to say. He said that, in fact, we had, so the chapel choir did our last Holy Ground performance at Exeter Cathedral on Sunday. Yeah. Sunday evening, and it was all right. We sang some nice music, and they said a big thank you, and it would be like that. That's the last time the chapel are going to be singing with us, and we thank them for their years of dedication.
Thank you for your service.
And we were talking about we were kind of doing it slightly differently in terms of where we singing and sitting. So directly in front of the Golden Gates as you enter the choir, there were some choir stalls out, and then in front of those stalls, like the stalls that are in the song school.
Yeah.
So these ones that are kind of like, they're quite portable. There are a load of seats in front of us, just kind of like wooden seats. And we were all a bit kind of like, well, that's a bit weird. It doesn't sound as nice as where we normally sing from. And Michael said, no, it's great, because, we'll be able, we'll be in a much tighter, a much kind of closer group. It'll be easier to hear the sound. And we've got seats, so it's much comfier. And then stopped. And I just looked at him being like, in my head, I was thinking, everything you've just said is bullshit. And Michael looked at me and was like, shit, he knows everything I've just said is bullshit. Because then he said, yeah, with the exception of that, we're not going to be sitting on the seats we normally are, which have cushions and heating underneath. Like, Michael, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I mean, some of my favourite memories of it's actually really nice, and that I have some of these in the vlog, are when we'd come home and just we both wanted to take out And like one of us would suggest it, and the other one would be like, "Yeah, I'll get on."
Can
that.
you remember when we got that take? We'd been watching a bit of a hat film stream.
Yeah.
And then we were thinking about what we were going to do for dinner, and then we just like, should we just get fucking Chinese? And you're like, yeah, all right. So we'd walk to the Chinese takeaway around the corner, come back, and that was the same night where I discovered the disco vinyl
of the
Star Wars soundtrack, which was scored by John Williams, and we put that on through the TV, and then I was down by the dimmer switch, and for about 12 minutes we just danced around the living room like complete idiots.
Yeah, I mean, this is why the podcast works. Is because it wasn't even like we had to coordinate something like that. It just happened. It's just, this is why, and so if we were to sort of think of ourselves as online famous, we would change this. We'd view it as like, I've got to be funny today, not just I'm going to turn up and have a chat and hopefully something entertaining comes out of it. That's arguably like a less professional way of doing it, but the merit of the product, if you like, is who we are. And so if we move away from doing things the way we've always done it, then it undermines the point of the whole podcast.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I suppose like the whole thing about online fame and like asking the question is, people want to be online famous. Everybody kind of wants to be. Because it's like you want to be what you consume. You want to be like a movie star or like, well, some people want to be like Ed Sheeran. I'm sure plenty of people don't.
Other people prefer other singers like Ollie Murs.
It's Ollie Murs.
Amazing.
People want to be online famous, and so I suppose the question is there in people's minds because they want to know at what point do you make it? Because obviously, like we certainly think of people like Aaron Hansen and Danny Sexbang from Game Grumps as being online famous, but like do you reckon they think of themselves as famous online? They must do.
I think circumstance must dictate that feeling because like another example, Rhett and Link have been friends since school, right? So when they're around each other, it's them hanging out. But then equally, when they're just talking to each other in front of multiple thousands of people at like VidCon or something, then I think that you can't get away from that whole like, this is different. This is this isn't usual.
Yeah, I mean, because interestingly, it's interesting that you said Rhett and Link actually, because I remember when we met them, like, and I had a chat to them backstage. I felt there was that distance. Not to say they were nasty people or anything like that, but you could just kind of tell that this was a professional interaction between a creator and their audience. It wasn't so much certainly when I meet people, it's like, oh hey, how you doing? Like I want to learn about you. Who are you? It wasn't just like it wasn't a one-way power relationship, if that makes sense. Yeah, at least in my mind. Like
the first time the first time I met Dan Hanvey, because I met him first because you didn't come on the Bath tour. We went up there and he came to one of the gigs afterwards, and Imogen came back, Dan's sister, and said, "Oh, my brother's here. He really likes the podcast and watches Simon's videos. Do you want to come say hello?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And we came over and had a chat, and we really got along. And then I said, "Oh, you should definitely come down to Exeter. It was really cool hanging out." And then he did, and we had kind of Firehouse, and now it's just we don't when we're kind of around each other and are just talking and kind of hanging out. It's completely devoid of anything to do with the podcast or your channel, or it's just like two mates hanging out, which is the best part about it. But I think it's also important to recognise that's been conceived from this whole creator consumer format. But there's nothing that then is inherently going to limit the kind of the connections you can make with people after that, just because that's how they started listening. Yeah. If anyone comes up to me and listens to the podcast and says hello, then I kind of acknowledge that and go, "Oh, that's really cool. Thanks. Well, I'm so glad you like it. Why do you like it?" But then immediately after that, it's like, okay, well, as you say, who are you? What do you do? Let's get to know each other.
It's I don't know. It's one of these things that I am worried about losing because, I mean, my channel's certainly been taking off a lot recently, and it's I'm gaining hundreds and hundreds of subscribers every day. Like since over the past 2 days, I've gained nearly 1,000 subscribers. Like it's kind of, and I can just kind of almost feel like things are not getting away from me, but I can almost feel like this is changing. You know, it not in the whole time I've been on YouTube so far, with a few notable exceptions, everything's changed so gradually that you don't notice it. It just becomes your life. Yeah. And now it's like, now I can kind of almost see everything changing and the rules, like the league that I'm playing in changing. I can't help but worry about how...
But what, sorry?
Oh, I thought I got away with it that time.
No, you never will. You know me with this well. I'd never let that slide.
I can't help but worry
Thank you.
about... I just want to let you know that in order to do that, I'd stuck my jaw out like a full inch from in the front of my face. Like an anglerfish, but like, worry. I can't help but worry about the way that I interact with my subscribers. And, you know, like, what's interesting is I actually I'm giving a talk tonight at Bristol Uni. Hopefully I will have met some Wikicast people there, actually. There's some people on the Discord who are saying they're going. And, you know, I just can't help but feel like, I don't know, is the way that I can interact? Of course, that is purely dependent on me, but the way that I can interact with the audience, is that going to change over time?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. It's just it's something that, because it's important to me, I'm thinking this. Like, it's obviously very egotistical and like, but when am I going to become famous? Kind of thing.
I don't think it's egotistical. I think it's really important to have that awareness. It's a complicated thing, because obviously, I think it is important with any kind of creator consumer environment that there is at the end of the day a line. There needs to be a line drawn between that whole kind of and where that line is then moved or brought down is when you get to know someone external from this. So like, there definitely would have been no chance that I would have get to know Dan as well as I do without actually seeing him and hanging out with him and us being able to kind of like talk without this kind of devoid of the lens of your channel or the podcast. So I don't think it's egotistical of you to be aware of the change. I think it's really important that you are aware of the change, because you can then, you know, you can make changes and try and lead things in the direction that you want.
I think possibly
just letting it all snowball.
Possibly, it's fair to say that it's not egotistical to be aware of it. What can be egotistical is my response to it, which only time will tell.
Yeah, exactly.
If I'm an arsehole or not. I hope I'm not. I don't think I'm an arsehole.
No, I mean, I don't know.
I do get f***ed every now and again by other people, but there we go. I mean that figuratively, God, not literally. No. If Pixel Girl is listening, she's definitely listening. But I don't know. What we've had is we've had possibly the most interesting article we've ever had, and now it's like, let's just talk about us instead. Yeah, it's like.
So speaking of like, we both don't think of ourselves as egotistical. For about 20 minutes, we've been talking about like meta podcast us, and wow.
Well, that's what's happened this week. We popped in the Discord and we saw the community, like boots on the ground. It's almost like walking into Wakanda. As
we definitely need to find another time where, even if it's just for kind of 20 minutes, half an hour, to just kind of like to surprise them again, not let them know that we're coming along, but just both agree on a time to be like, right, are you ready? We're going to go in.
Yeah. Hello, Infinidagger returns.
Nice.
I'd like to do that. I mean, I'm very keen to start making more stuff. Actually, like we were talking about before the episode, like doing more stuff on Spongy and Electric, because as somebody's pointed out, there isn't very much on that channel at the moment other than the Wikicast, because I haven't had a chance to edit. But I have now actually started editing the Kerbal Space Program thing that we did. And I think we're keen to do like a gaming series, and maybe just do like a big old recording session and then split it over a couple of weeks, and then do that every now and again. So it doesn't matter if it doesn't get any views. I just kind of want to do it because I think it'd be fun. But yes, so I don't know. Perhaps I'm in the mood to talk about the community stuff because we saw it up close, and it's just kind of fired me up to make more stuff, I guess.
Next. So we're going to springboard our way over.
So we're going to springboard? What the f*** is a springboard?
Springboard. I swallowed kind of midway through spring, and things went south.
Can we Pringle
Let's try again.
Instead? Is a Pringle board like a hyperbolic springboard?
Yeah, we're going to Pringle board our way over to Critics Corner.
Now be careful when you do that, because once you Pringle board, you can't stop. I've learned to understand.
God.
That's a mathematical joke, by the way. Like, I like that. A springleboard is a hyperbolic springboard. I'm quite a fan of that. Somebody make that on the wiki.
Well done, readers, for putting up with that. In terms of Critics' Corner, now, Simon and I haven't really seen anything this week. It's been quite a busy week.
Yeah.
I had certainly the reason why I've had such a kind of nice week this week is that I have Wednesday and Thursday and Friday off work because I kind of went a bit mental working over the weekend. I had kind of 4 or 5 consecutive days, which is quite a lot. So I haven't had much time to watch anything. However, in the spirit of criticism and reviewing and engaging with media, there's a rather exciting thing happening towards the end of this month. Well, 2 rather exciting things. One, anyone in the Exeter or Devon area on the 27th of
Oh, he's plugging his
March,
bloody concerts, isn't he?
There's a concert that Exeter University Singers and Harmonics, which is a choir that actually Simon was
I used to be
for a
in,
bit.
yeah, for 2 years.
Yeah. We're putting on a combined kind of reflective thing. It's going to be in the Mary Harris Chapel on Exeter University campus. It's going to be really nice. It's only going to go for about an hour, just a quiet little thing, and then we'll probably go to the pub afterwards. It should be quite nice. But as a kind of lead on from there, also happening at the end of this month, and also musical, the Gesualdo 6, who I've mentioned before, who I think are absolutely bloody fantastic, they're releasing their debut album. And it's a collection of English motets, and I've read through the set list, and it looks fantastic. They've been putting out a couple of little like taster tracks of what it's going to be on there. I've had the kind of privilege to hear them live when they came down to Exeter to put on a small performance, and they are genuinely fantastic. So if you like music and you like choral music specifically, or you've heard Simon and I talk about it and you want to kind of maybe engage a little bit more and listen to something, search the Gesualdo 6 English Motets album. Keep an eye on when it's released, and when it's released, I urge you to listen to it. It's absolutely fantastic. I think I'm actually going to find the set list and tell you, Simon.
Oh, I mean, because I am interested in this, and like, it is something that we get asked a fair bit, actually. Like, of Facebook messages or emails or whatever, by people saying, I want to get into the music that you do. How do I start? This does sound like because it's obviously only one part of the spectrum. English motets is something that we do a lot of, but they can be sung by a small group like the Gesualdo 6, or they can be sung by a huge choir, and there are different motets that suit different ones.
A huge choir like Exeter University Singers and Harmonics who are going to join forces and sing Eric Whittaker's Sleep, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be super cool. I'm very excited because it means that I'll conduct it. And Singers is a fairly sizable choir. Harmonics have got a fair few people as well. So when we combine forces, Harmonics recently sang with Exeter University Chapel Choir in Evensong, and they did an absolutely fantastic rendition of Eric Whittaker's Luxarumque. So it's fitting that they can also come and sing Sleep with us if they want. And their musical director seems really keen. So
in conducting Sleep, are you going to be doing the classic Dan Moore cleared for takeoff conducting maneuver?
Oh, for sure.
I'll include a brief clip of the moment that, because you do that at the Sleep, like the going to like shifting a semitone in the soprano part, right? Yeah, I'll include. That's what you're about to hear. And then what you have to imagine whilst that is happening is, Dan, how would you describe what you're doing as a conductor?
So I kind of hold my elbows kind of go out, and my hands are kind of like pointing to the sky, as if I'm almost forming kind of rugby posts with my arms. And then I pivot from the waist sideways as the kind of the sopranos descend to, I think it's a C sharp. And yeah, it's basically whenever you hear it happens in early polyphony music all the time. Where you'll have a part that'll kind of sing a line and then have a semitone like cadence at the end of it. This is getting way too nerdy, but I kind of love it. And given that I've gone to the Michael Graham School of Dancing, I mean conducting,
he does have an A-star in dance, don't you know?
Yeah, he it's a super fun thing to do. So if anyone's free or fancy, like coming along, we'll probably try and get some footage of it as well. I'd like to get some recordings.
Oh, you mean at the concert, not just specifically your like dipping your wings in tribute?
No, because it would be cool. I think it'll be a good thing for Harmonics to do, and then we can both kind of use each other to publicise and things. But Anyway, the English motets, Gesualdo 6,
Hit me
directed
with
by
it.
Owen Park. The track list. We've got Sucipe Quoso Domini by Tallis.
Nice.
Vigilate by Bird.
Mm-hmm.
Loque Bantor by Tallis.
Bantor.
Bantor, am I right? When David Heard, Thomas Tompkins. Which is awesome.
No, I was thinking of the Whitaker, yes. I don't know the Tompkins.
It's really cool. If You Love Me, Thomas Tallis.
If You Love Me.
Liberanos 1 by John Shepherd, which we sang at Complin not long ago. Christe Qui Lux Esset Dies by Robert White.
Mm-hmm.
O Lord in Thy Wrath, Orlando Gibbons. Veni Sancte Spiritus, Dunstable. Haec Dies by Morley. I haven't heard of this one. Quemad Modum by Taverner, John Taverner.
Oh, the first John Taverner.
Yeah. 1490 to 1545. Ave Maria Mater Dei by William Cornish.
Oh, I don't know a lot of these.
Deliver Me From Mine Enemies by Robert Parsons, who's also, you might have sung his...
I love his Ave Maria.
Ave Maria, yeah. Ne Iscaris Domine by Bird, and then Civitas Sancti Tui, and Liberanos 2 by John Shepherd. So it's like... It's an early banger.
Yeah.
A whole selection. It's going to be really cool.
So
we're already...
The Civitas Tui by Taverner, not Bird.
By Bird.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, yeah. I thought it was by Bird. That's gorgeous. King Singers did a nice recording of that, so I'd love to hear the Gesualdo version. Yeah,
and they are. I genuinely think they're probably one of the best small ensembles around. They've got sickeningly talented singers. But yeah, we're already trying to. One of the bases in the chapel choir, we're trying to plan a chapel social where we'll have a boozy picnic in the chapel one evening and bring a load of speakers, and because Ed's got 2 UE booms which you can hook up together and make a hell of a noise. We'll have like a live debut listening, but in the chapel.
So it's actually funny you should mention that, because that brings me on to what I wanted to talk about in Critic's Corner, which is that, as we discussed 2-3 weeks ago, we were talking about home smart speakers. And we were talking about the Apple Hub, HomePod, sorry. And I was talking about the Google one. And I actually did buy a Google Mini. I've had it installed in the office for a little while now. Mm-hmm. I've got to say, it's kind of overall observations about having a smart speaker. I use it a lot more than I thought I would. Like, I was fully expecting to buy it and then maybe use it a little bit and then kind of just forget I had it. Whereas I've actually found this to be... what I basically use it for is music, mostly. I do sometimes ask it questions if I'm in the middle of editing or something. Like, the one that really got me the other day was I was looking up how much I was being paid by Google, and obviously that amount is in dollars. And all I had to do was just say, okay, Google, how much is $2,000 in British pounds?
2,000 United States dollars is approximately 1,433 British pounds and 72 pence.
Like, just being able to do that rather than having to type it was kind of cool.
It's like,
I'm not being paid $2,000 for something, by the way. That was the figure I plucked out of the air.
Yeah, it's like using, like now that Siri's getting better and better, and especially the level of tech in Siri in the HomePod is is even better. But just coming home and being like, I don't know. If I'm cooking something, asking her to set a timer.
Yeah, I've used it for that as well.
As soon as I'm also gradually building towards getting a bit more kind of smart home stuff in the house. So the HomePod, for instance, would be able to communicate with the HomeKit that I'm thinking of getting, which means that I can get all the kind of like the lights and stuff done. Yeah,
the idea of having Wi-Fi lights, I think, because obviously I'm at home at the moment. I think once Pixel Girl and I get a place, I am very keen to make it like have my own office, which will probably be at home, or like a studio, and make it a proper smart tech hub, and have like the lights and have because you can also use it to control the thermostat. I know, if you have a smart thermostat.
You can also buy smart plug adapters that you can plug a some form of kind of electrical utility that may not have smart function features, and then use this wall adapter that has it's like a smart adapter. So you can then use it to turn on or track the output of your washing machine or your toaster or your kettle. Or
I mean,
I'm waiting until I am saving until. Well, I say saving. I've got one already in my Amazon basket, but it's a kettle that has Wi-Fi capability. So it means that on my way home, I can tell it.
That is I can literally
hey Siri, put the kettle on or make the tea, and she'll be like, yeah, sure, and it'll be ready for me when I get home.
Okay, Daniel, putting on a brew or something like that.
Yeah.
Like the idea if I had the because the other thing with Google I know is you can also set up custom commands. So I set it up, for example, I had like a phrase that if I wanted to get the latest news update, it does that. So if I could set it up so like, okay, turn on studio lights, and then if I have those Wi-Fi plugs, then all my studio lights then turn on. Just, I mean, the thing I've been using it for mostly actually has been music, and it's kind of surprising for a disc. It is literally the size of a coaster, like it's the radius of a beer coaster. It produces an impressively good and impressively loud sound. And also, like, you can ask it to play me. So I'm pretending it's the Star Trek computer, and play me something relaxing. But you can also request a specific song, and it's got Spotify built in. So once you ask for a specific song, then it's on a radio for that artist. And that's what I've done that a lot whilst I've been working. Just having that as a separate audio source. And then you can tell it to stop and increase the volume. Like if I'm like, I don't know. Okay, Google. Play Samurai Abstinence Patrol by Ninja Sex Party.
Alright, Samurai Abstinence Patrol by Ninja Sex Party.
But then the other thing you can do is, I'm going to regret doing this because it's pretty loud. Hey Google, maximum volume. Jesus! Okay Google, 10% volume. Hey Google! 10% volume. See, that's so dope that I can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, Google, stop. I probably use it. I don't know.
You can say we've been messing around with the ones in the Apple Store. So when we if we're walking past one of the guys in the product zone, there's a HomePod there, and it's playing just kind of ambient music, or it's not even on. You can walk past it and go, "Hey Siri, pump up the jam," and it'll just play a random song really loudly. So we were upstairs. We were up in the way the Exeter Princess Hay store works is that the Genius Bar and the kind of accessories are all upstairs, and then the product zone is downstairs. You can kind of shout down from the balcony at the top and be like, "Hey Siri, play Cha Cha Slide," and then try and get the store downstairs to start dancing to it. And it's quite fun.
I mean, I've got to say, like for 40 quid, which is what I paid for it, it was £10 off. I am very impressed. Like, if we're going to go for like criticism for this, like I am genuinely now considering, once I move into my own place, getting a couple of them in other rooms, because I have one in the studio, and it's like I can tell Google on my phone, for example, to be like, okay, play me Mozart in my office, and then I walk in and it'll already be playing. And also you can tell it to talk to your Chromecast, to be like, put it on something on the living room TV. And the idea of having that in multiple rooms, and especially if you have like a big, like the proper Google Hub, which is like twice the price, I think, but like a much better speaker. I'm genuinely thinking of investing in that. I mean, obviously it's early days. I've had it for just under a week, I think. But yeah, if we're being critics of it, I'm very impressed. Also, you can just like anything you can ask Google, you can ask it like, okay, Google, what's the final digit of pi?
On the website bbc.co.uk, they say, the record for finding consecutive numbers from 3.14 onward to the final digit is held by Fabrice Bellard, who announced in January that he had calculated pi to 2.7 trillion digits.
Oh, that's an updated version then. I didn't know that. I asked it the other day, and it just went, okay, good, okay, just tell me when to stop. 3.1415926, and I was like, okay, good, stop. It's I don't know, a big fan basically. Smart speakers. I'd be interested to know if our readers have opinions on them, but I've been won over by a relatively small investment, so very happy.
It's like with, I'm trying to remember. Let me see if I can make her do it. Hey Siri, I see a little silhouette of a man.
Scaramouche, will you do the Fandango? Thunderbolt and lightning, very, very frightening me. Galileo.
She'll keep going and going and going right the way through. It's quite hilarious.
What was the one I asked the other day? Okay, Google. What's the first rule of Fight Club?
I wouldn't know. That's not something I talk about.
There are some hilarious
You can tell
things
that geeks make these.
You can ask.
I really like it.
Hey Siri, Do you work for the FBI?
No.
Just leaves it at no.
Oh, actually, I haven't tried this yet. Hey, Google, what is the Wikicast?
Sorry, I don't know how to.
Oh, we're not famous enough. Damn it. Oh, I could ask this. Hey, Google, who's Simon Clarke?
According to Wikipedia, Simon Clarke is a horror novelist from Doncaster, England.
No, he's not. That's lies. Useless. Throw it away. Actually, before we leave Critics Corner, another thing that I've been doing, like if we are going to talk about stuff we've been listening to and watching and whatnot, I've been listening to, you had a taste of it earlier, a buttload of Ninja Sex Party. I thoroughly encourage all the readers to get on it. They, in particular, I've been listening to Attitude City a lot. They're just really funny. I met Ninja Brian in real life when he was still a physicist. He gave a talk at Oxford. But yeah, like all their albums are really, like I've been addicted to 6969 is like the Bohemian Rhapsody of comedy songs. Like it's amazing. Have you listened to any of their stuff?
A little bit, not nearly as much as you have. I usually find my kind of like early Bill Wirtz stuff. New Canaan is my favourite.
Oh yeah.
As I've mentioned before.
But yeah, thoroughly. If we're going to talk about, because like you, I have been so busy. I have literally had no time. But I've been listening because I've been listening to stuff while I've been working on my new Google Home Mini. Google sponsor me. So you know, I've been listening to a lot of that. But that is literally, I haven't even read because the thing is, I'm funnily enough actually, because of the pie thing I mentioned earlier, I had a video come out yesterday, which was International Pie Day, dating the episode. Well done, Simon. That was the first time I've ever pulled an all-nighter editing. I literally got so into it that I just didn't go to sleep. It wasn't even a conscious decision. I just kept working, and it got light outside. But I just about got it ready in time. It would have been up earlier, but there was a rendering error, so I had to re-render it, which took like 2 hours, and I had a nap in that time.
What a joy!
And then when I uploaded it, Google refused to process it, so I had to re-upload it. So I lost like quite a few views on International Pie Day, which is a bit annoying. But like, considering if people have watched it, a lot of people have complimented me on the editing, which I think is amazing because I literally edited that in 24 hours. And a lot of the complicated stuff was done literally at like 4 a.m. So it's kind of nice to know that if need be, in a pinch, I can put on like my best editing work literally whilst I'm completely sleep deprived. So that I did that, and I also had the NASA video, which isn't out at the time of recording, but should be out literally this an hour after this podcast goes out. I've been editing this story about the time I went to NASA. Did I tell you I went to NASA?
No, I don't think you've ever mentioned it.
No, I don't think I ever have. It's something I keep quiet about. And basically, I had a DVD of all the BBC footage that was shot for me and like the other people who went, and it went missing. So hence my message to Dan, which is now in the quotes page of the Discord. Get the DVD, you cum sponge, all in caps.
Lovely.
Basically, I thought it was an extra, and it turns out it's not, and it's also not here in Bristol, so I don't know where it's gone. So that was delayed and very, very stressful production for that, because I've now got it from another person, but because everyone who went on the trip was given a copy. But yeah, this past week has been insanely busy. This week I'm actually taking a bit of time off because there's another there's 2 more science videos coming out this month, but then apart from that, it's a vlog, which I've been doing a vlog this week, which is fun, and there's also a book video, but like the second half of the month is way less stressful basically than the first half. I've been like Dan, rushed off my tits.
Fair play. Busy times.
We're making stuff. We're changing the world. We are making memes indirectly, of course. We just let our fans do that for us, and bloody hell are they good at it.
Seasoned pros.
Like honestly, it's amazing, the memes. I mean, can we put that in Creators Corner? Like, it's just kind of astonishing, just like the variety, the sheer lack of quality of a lot of them.
And they're so, some of them are so niche. It even takes me or you like a second to be like, wait, what? Oh, this. Like,
yeah.
I think I love them.
I'm very glad that we've moved away from the My Little Pony porn section of the Discord, which I know happened.
I fortunately I didn't know or have seen any of that.
Oh, I haven't seen any of it, but I just know that it happened. It's just, for God's sake, we create a community and this is what happens. It was inevitable, really. But you know, if we're being critical of if we're being critics of the memes created, that's a yes from me when it comes to the really creative ones of Dan and I, and a very big no when it comes to My Little Pony porn. Top lad.
And thank you so much for tuning back in. You're joining us here at the Rugby International game between Australia and Wales. We've got your two representatives commentating.
Right you are, Daniel.
There he is. If you were unsure, that's our Wales representative there.
Yes, from the Valleys. We're looking forward to a good, clean game.
It's going to be an absolutely fantastic game. Fucking marvellous.
Oh, yes.
Really looking forward to it today. The boys are in really, they're in top form.
Yes.
They've been training hard. I don't know about the Welsh team, well, Simon.
I think we're going to have to talk about the Welsh team after the kick-off. It's about to happen.
And here we begin. So I believe it's Australia to kick off first. We've got our centre, Henry Brewster.
Are you reading this off of a list of rugby positions, Daniel?
I'm absolutely doing that. Yes, I could not give a flying about rugby. So here we go. We're starting with Henry Brewster. He's looking at. He's a picture on the pitch. He's been training hard. His abdominals there, just kind of slightly ripping through the t-shirt. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Well, Daniel couldn't give a flying about rugby. Welsh could give a flying half, and that's wonderful. Stephen coming up the centre of the pitch there, pressuring the ball. Man on. Who is he tackling there, Dan?
And that's Lewis Watson coming in there. He's a big lad, is Lewis, but he's got a heck of a move behind him. And Lewis is down. He's out for the count.
Ruck,
absolutely.
Ruck, boys, ruck. That's Simon Vase, Emma Kavanagh. Right, they got possession. It's a turnover. And it's got Irish all of a sudden. And no, it's back. The Welsh accent's back, and it's back to Matt Maguire. It's grounded, and it's gonna be a line out there.
Well, here we go. So I believe you just said the word. It's going to be a line up. Is that right?
A line out. Yes.
Yeah, okay. I don't know what that is. So what Eric Davis, he's doing what he wants. He's picked up the ball and he's fucking flying up the pitch. Absolutely, he's followed closely behind by Tyler Rooker and Billy Toulson.
And mirroring
good boys.
Mirroring their movements, you got Luke Thatcher and Alex Greer.
It's gonna end nasty. And there's contact. There we go. Elliot Conway comes in, absolutely flying, and takes down. I believe that's one of your Welsh boys, Simon.
Yes, so possession changed. Sorry, we've not been paying too much attention because I've been looking up rugby positions, you see. That was Tapio Kirkinen has been taken down, and it's now another turnover, and it's back to Australia.
So we've got Elliot Conway pacing down now, followed closely by Ben McMurty and David Scarhill. David, of course, being one of our strongest scrum halves, and Ben being, I think, what's called a flanker. I don't know what I'm doing. I
It's pretty clear that neither of us know what we're doing, Dan. So hang on. What was the latest though? Australia still have possession, do they?
Yep, it's the moustache man coming through. He's getting pretty close to that try line actually. Wales better do something about
Australia
about
are
that.
Spreading out through the pitch, but we've got pressure being put on by Wales. We've got Azagu Nagapan Nagasaravanan, very traditional Welsh name, who's now pressuring the ball. Yes, and she's taking the ball. He's taking the ball. He's running up the pitch.
That's it. Moustache man's down.
He's running up the pitch with the ball. Davi
Habiba
up.
Amjad comes in to intercept. He's straight up with the ball, and the play's resumed. It's Habiba. It's passing to Dan Hanvey to Connor Levers. Lachlan Woods now on the wing. He's pacing down. There's not much left. It's only a few metres in it. Passes back to John Mannion.
But Miles Kornfeld has come out of nowhere. Taking her down.
So bloody close.
Oh, right, taken down. And then it's another rock. It's a rock, and it's come out. And it's gone to Jay Wright. Jay Wright is running up the pitch. He fakes it. Thought he was going to pass to Angela, but he's not. He's carrying on up the pitch. Are there any Australians around him on the pitch, Daniel?
John Mannion straight in the back there. That was very nearly.
That's a big hit.
Very nearly needed a sin bin. Is that rugby? Is that a sin bin?
Yes, you do call it that in rugby. I think I could hear the spine snap from here.
He seems to be looking a bit of pain. Anyway, it's John Mannion keep going through now, and it's two left between them. It's super close. He passes to Nicholas, and that is a try for Australia. Fantastic work out there, boys. So very proud of you.
It's dark day in the Millennium Stadium. Have you got any players left?
No, that's it. That's me all done.
I've got 3 more.
Okay. Do you want to score a try? The Australian team have actually they've left the pitch. They're getting a drink. That's right. So they're going to be pulling up a Foster's, which is obviously an interesting move, given that means that Wales now have an absolutely free.
It's an undefended
free
pitch, and a triforce of Simon Torseth, Jordan Eschendahl, and Kieran Kelly are just they're having a laugh. They're passing the ball between them and laughing as they go up the centre line. And
at this point, I would say that the Australian team is looking relaxed. They've all taken a seat at the bar, and they're watching the game, pointing and laughing because they've obviously realised that they should be on the pitch, and they've failed in that regard.
And that's a try for Wales right between the posts. I don't know what my accent's doing now.
Struth. Bloody oath! What a game!
I've got to say thank you for keeping that. I know for an Australian that was very little swearing. So
yeah, I was trying to. I mean, using the friendly greeting of. I avoided using it purely for editing purposes.
Thank you so much for that. But also,
that's all right, no problem.
Thank you so much to all of our patrons on Patreon. For those of you who are new to the podcast, that's our expanded class of top lads. We now have 30 of them. We actually sold out all of the top lad spots immediately. So I think we might have to have a rethink about how we do this. Like maybe, I don't know, maybe half of them. We could increase the number and maybe half get a shout out on like even episodes and half get a shout out on odd episodes. Because obviously you guys really like the podcast and you like supporting us, and the fact that they went like that, says a lot about how committed you guys are. So maybe we need to have a rethink. But thank you so much to everybody who who supports us on Patreon. It's not just our top lads; we also have our Team Cat and Team Dogs.
We do. And we're currently sitting, it's Team Cat 23, Team Dog 22. Now, I do believe that Team Dog were ahead.
They were, earlier in the week. I was worried that we were going to have the first episode ever where Team Dog were ahead. But no, Team Cat's still clinging on with their claws.
It's very interesting that you always say, before we start recording, you give me an update, and they say that, Team Dog were ahead, and then when we start recording, they're not. I mean, I don't want to be overly sceptical here, but I'm fairly sure that whenever Team Dog are ahead, Simon just pledges $1 just to bump it up.
I don't know what you mean. That's absolutely not what has been happening.
Team Dog, I'm very proud of you. We're slow and steady wins the race. It's been 28 episodes, but we're getting there.
You're not winning because cats are the superior household pet. That's why.
It's complete rubbish. It's absolute rubbish.
Although, did I mention this to you? Cellular Page was saying that perhaps the reason this podcast works is because I am like a dog and you're like a cat. And a lot of couples, that is the case. Like, one's a cat person, which means they're like a dog, and the other person is a dog person, which means they're like a cat. And that just, it kind of works, you know?
Yeah.
So perhaps this is why the whole podcast is possible. But it's necessary that Team Cat always win, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, we'll see for next week. I've got a feeling that Team Dog are going to be ahead by quite a bit. Team Dog, you know what to do.
I invite people to support $1 a month to Team Dog and prove me wrong by the next episode. But don't, Team Cat. If you like cats, please also donate $1 a month to Team Cat on patreon.com/the Wikicast. Top lad!
So we're going to jump on straight ahead to Correspondence Corner this week.
Correspondence
Corner.
I personally have a great interest in Correspondence.
We're going to jump ahead to Correspondence Corner this week, just because we've got quite a lot of correspondence to work through, and we're already looking at a fairly sizable podcast. But if you would like to email in to the Agony Uncle section, please feel free. It's spongyelectric@gmail.com. It's all anonymized. We've got some sitting in the way by to go to, but we've made the mutual decision to jump straight onto correspondence as there's. God, you're all so keen.
There's a lot of emails,
yeah. And with that, we have our first email from Patrick Jury. It says, "Hello, Messrs. Moore and Clark. I am a new reader of the Wikicast." New reader. Round of applause. He goes on to say, however, it is
one of us.
However, it has quickly found its place on rotation among my regular podcasts. Your entertaining takes on whatever Wikipedia throws at you makes for a good listen. I'm studying engineering in Australia, but as I have communicated with Simon over Twitter, I'll be undertaking an exchange at the University of Exeter in the 2018-19 academic year. What are some important extra things you would recommend I do there to make most of my time? As for cats versus dogs, I grew up with one of each. However, I must side with Dan on Team Dog. Regards, Patrick.
Well,
congratulations on the exchange. That's fantastic. I know that a lot of certainly from Melbourne University, Exeter is quite a popular choice for folk to go to. As far as things to do, I mean, what springs to mind immediately for me would be Exeter Underground passages, Firehouse. You've got to do the Firehouse pub quiz. You've got to come and have a listen to Evensong at Exeter Cathedral. I'm in no way biased in that recommendation. But if you do, then I'll be in the choir at that stage, so we can say hello. Equally, listen to, go and hear the chapel choir sing. Go down to Double Locks. That's really nice.
Yeah, I mean,
for kind of like a nice lunch out.
The thing is, when we talk about things to do in Exeter, a lot of the things that I tend to recommend to people are things just out of Exeter. Like, as a city, it's definitely nice to wander around and see Cathedral Green, see the Quay as well. But like Dan says, like going to Double Locks, which is a pub about, I don't know, hour's walk outside of Exeter. Is it just obviously
if you walk from the Quay, you get there in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, 20 minutes, half an hour is pretty fair, actually, yeah. But then also, like, Exmouth, Sidmouth, like Dawlish, there's a lot of places near Exeter that are worth visiting. But in Exeter...
Yeah, and it's really cheap to get there because it's all on the one train line.
Yeah.
So it's not, you don't have to travel particularly far for much, and it's lovely.
Yeah, but in Exeter, there's not... I would actually recommend, do go and see the underground medieval tunnels, because they're really interesting, especially if you're from Australia. Like, it's basically, I think it's always cool to go somewhere that's substantially older than your country.
Exeter Cathedral.
Yeah, like the cathedral and like the tunnels. Yes, nice plug, Dan.
Also, like things as I said, Firehouse is great for a night out. There's some nice places. As far as like things to do on an evening, if there's some other people who are also undertaking an exchange and you want to go out for maybe some drinks or something, there's Dr. Ink's Curiosities on the Quay, which is like a really, really groovy, amazing cocktail bar. Turtle Bay, the Book Cover, which is like a 1920s themed speakeasy. Otherwise, like if you don't have anyone to go out and for a drink with, send me a message closer to when you're put an email in. Let me know when you're here. We'll find a free evening. I'll show you around.
There you go. Can't turn that down.
Get you settled.
Next up, we have a short message, which I'm sure is going to engender a lot of discussion from Renegao? I'm not quite sure how you're supposed to pronounce that. Another Australian. We have a lot of Australian readers.
Yeah, we do.
Dear Sir/Madam, I am a high school student in Australia and I'm going to Eastern Europe on music tour very soon. Since both of you have been on choir tours, I'd be very grateful for any advice. Gosh, advice for going on a choir tour. Music tour. What do you think, Dan?
I would say pace yourself. Don't look forward to a concert so much that you knacker your voice and then can't sing at all. Watch what you drink.
Yeah,
too.
I mean that's much more for singers. It's not. I don't know. She just says music tour. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, I imagine she's not going to play particularly well on an instrument if she's hungover either. True. So the point probably still. Also, just from a health perspective, don't go mental. Make the most of when you've got time off, and make the most of seeing things. Like Simon and I were super keen to not just kind of waste time in Malta with going to the beach and drinking or going on a boat and drinking, and we wanted to actually go and get some culture. Especially if you're going on a tour through what sounds like several different countries, if it's Eastern Europe, there'll be so much to see. So plan in, maybe start looking ahead and thinking, well, if I've got this time away, this is where I'll be situated. Where can I do and see that's fairly close? But make the most of it just being a kind of a tour away. The music is obviously super exciting, but you'll be able to see things that you've never seen before.
What would you recommend packing? What do you think? What's something that you think you should pack for a music tour?
A pencil, probably several. If you lose it, there's nothing more annoying than not being able to mark in your music.
Based on our friend Peter's experiences, I was going to say sun cream. Even if you're going to Eastern Europe,
very true.
And it's she says she's going very soon. Just be careful. Don't get sunstroke, and don't go on a flight that nearly has to be diverted because you were sunburned so badly.
Yeah, but most of all, just enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely.
And seize every opportunity you're given.
Yeah. And also be aware you're representing your institution, not just yourself. And, don't do anything too stupid. We're responsible adults.
You're a citizen of the world.
Yeah. We're responsible adults, so we have to say that, basically. But yeah, I mean, I'm jealous, basically. We are going to be going on choir tour sometime soon.
We are. To Limoges.
In the south of France. Well, central France, really, isn't it? It's not south. So yeah, I'm going to be hopefully buying a new drone for the occasion, so we can have some very cool tour vlogs. I'm very excited.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Good luck with the tour, Rena. She also signed off cats and PCs. Rena, approximately 498,614,400 seconds. Which
Nice.
I mean, it's not a compound fraction, but I appreciate that. That's solid.
Very cool. We have an email here from Elliot Conway. He says, "Dear Messrs. Clark and Moore, you may recall an email I sent a while ago in which I said I was heading to law school. Sadly, however, I was unable to get funding, so I abandoned pursuing law.
Boo!
This eventually became a blessing in disguise as I was accepted onto a master's degree in history, and I've just recently been offered a place to do a PhD at the University of Manchester.
Hey!
Woo!
Congrats!
I followed Simon's advice videos, and they helped me to write a proposal good enough to get accepted. To show my appreciation, I've donated an extra $5 both to the Wikicast and Simon's Patreon.
Oh, you
I look forward to pursuing a career in research and academia.
You absolute
Congratulations.
babe. Well done, Elliot.
And thank you for the extra donation. But most importantly, well done on being offered a PhD place. That's fantastic.
That is. I mean, it's a difficult path ahead, but well done.
Also, with regards to cats and dogs, although I'm on the fence because both are glorious, I have to support Team Cat, as a cat's love means so much.
Thank
and
you.
with the cheese issue, I live with people who ate it off the block and left teeth marks. Oh my God. So I sympathise with Dan. Elliot, you're a hero.
Did I ever do that? Did I ever leave teeth marks?
No, I don't think so, but you would deliberately cut out like Tetris-shaped things in the cheese just to piss me off.
Because I was considerate and I wanted to bite into a hunk of cheese and I didn't just want to have shitey little slices. I wanted to have a proper chunk. So I was being nice. I was avoiding the teeth mark
You
and
were being
cheese
nice.
block situation.
Okay. Sure.
Okay, very quick note for the podcast here. Tyler Rooker, got your email. I have 2 now lost. I'm not reading that out because I am not that evil a person that I am going to make so many people, thousands of people, lose, okay? Those of you who already know probably know what I'm talking about, but no, Tyler, very bad.
We've got an email here from Jane Krause. She says, "Hello, boys. I have written before, and I shall say it again. I love this podcast, and I'm glad to know I'm not the only Australian listening.
By
Not
far.
by any stretch of the imagination. There's loads of you. I'm writing to you concerning a recent film I watched, Viceroy's House. Have the two of you watched it or spoken about it before on the Wikicast? I can't remember. Anyway, I quite enjoyed it, especially the soundtrack. If you have seen the film, what do you think? As a historian, I quite enjoyed the portrayal of several historical events, and being careful not to spoil it for anyone listening. Although not a fan of their casting choice for Louis Mountbatten. The music is charming, a right mix of traditional Indian and Western orchestral. One of my favourite soundtracks at the moment. Anyway, mustache, the tea is boiling. Very good. Lady Jane, aged 270 months and 2 days. P.S. Team Dog."
So I just had to Google who Louis Mountbatten was. He was the first Earl Mountbatten of Burma. Hang on. He was
Presumably of the Mountbatten family who married Elizabeth.
I guess so. Oh yeah, he's an uncle of Prince Philip.
Yeah,
Second cousin once removed to Queen Elizabeth. During the Second World War, he was Supreme Allied Commander of Southeast Asia. And he was the last Viceroy of India. That's probably why. So I haven't watched this. Viceroy's House, I assume, then is about sort of the end of colonialism in India. That sounds very interesting. Viceroy's House. Hang on, I'm going to have a quick Google.
Viceroy's House. So I think I've heard of this. The Viceroy's... Yeah.
Oh,
It does ring a bell.
it looks like the film poster is what every single grey market film poster looks like. That is so generic. Also, the fact that it's based on a true story.
Oh yeah, because it's got Thingy. What's that actor's name?
Who's in everything. All the grey Hugh Bonneville.
Yeah, Hugh Bond. Yeah, I do know this. I've seen and Gillian Anderson. Yeah, I've seen the trailers for this. It looked. Yeah.
It's one of these things where, like, I bet this will be a very rose-tinted... Oh, no, it was... Oh, that's interesting. No, I was about to say I bet it was going to be a very rose-tinted kind of portrayal of the events and, like, not excusing, but, like, kind of brushing over the fact that India was treated incredibly badly by people in Britain. But I don't know. It's certainly got an Indian director and Indian written screenplay, it seems.
Kermode's given it a 3 out of 5 stars.
Also, The Guardian says that it brings fake history to the screen. It takes breathtaking liberties with real-life horrors. Whoops. Okay, perhaps I was right to begin with. I might have to watch this just to see what see what Jane's talking about, and also to work out how bad how badly it's representing stuff like I thought Darkest Hour did. So that could be quite interesting. If I get the chance, I will try and read that.
Yeah.
Also, I love aged 270 months and 2 days. It's unconventional, but I like it.
The sign off of Lady Jane. Also, I should make a note of. I'm currently obsessed with and have been for months. The only tea I drink now is Lady Grey tea. It's I get it. It's the Twinings one. And whenever it's in stock, I will buy about 4 boxes because it seems to disappear, and they're kind of rare as hen's teeth. But it's really nice. Think Earl Grey, but you kind of carry the bergamot taste, but you then substitute the kind of black tea-iness with kind of like a citrusy, orangey kind of taste.
I'm not going to lie. As soon as you started talking about tea, I felt a little bit sick. So
that's fine. It's really, really tasty. If you're a fan of tea, I highly recommend you try Lady Grey. You've got to let it steep for I'd say about 3 minutes, because I like it. You know, I add like just a bit of milk at the end, and you don't want it to taste too watery. But it's delicious. Really, really nice. Can recommend. But yeah, thank you, Jane.
So in response to our discussion last time, asking people in German cities specifically to kind of recommend things to do for one of our other readers who's going there, we have an email from Sarah Warrelman. I guess that's Varelman or something like that. Oh, I got picked up on my German pronunciation last episode as well. Varelman, I'm going to go with. Why not? Dear Simon and Dan, good start. As one reader requested travel recommendations for Germany, here's some tips on what to do in Hamburg. I'm going to paraphrase it because it's quite a long email, so good job, Sarah, for being thorough. So Hamburg is probably most famous for its port. There are the St. Pauli, Landungsbrücken, with some museum ships.
Brücken.
Sorry. Landungsbrücken. And also Hannah Müller.
I only know that because we've spent so much time on the fucking St. Matthew Passion. Like, to try and get the right vowel on Uber.
Yeah.
It was like, if you make a kind of smile and say E, and then keep that sound, and then bring your mouth into like an O shape. That's the vowel that you meant to say. Uber. Okay. Yeah,
because we got pulled up on the Discord. Hannah was like, "For God's sake, get my name right. It's not Müller, it's Müller." So sorry, Hannah. So yeah, so St. Pauli Landungsbrücken with some museum ships and little food shops. A little recommendation here is to try and get a tour that also leads through to the Spielerstadt warehouse district. I think is a translation. The normal boats are too big for the canals. They can't go there. Oh, okay. It's kind of hard to find a guide who also speaks English, but definitely worth it. The alternative is to ask nice-looking people to translate. Also, she's recommended the Elbe Tunnel, an old tunnel below the port. You can go down there with lifts and walk to the other side of the port. The view there is really great. The boats to the, oh my god, Uvelgun. That's O with umlaut, VELG, O with umlaut, NNE. It's a museum harbour. And the Elbe Philharmonie, an opera house. Not heard of that. And then some other little assorted recommendations. The miniature Wunderland, the world's largest model railway. Oh, that's cool!
Oh, that sounds cool.
Oh, I'd want to go there.
I was such a railway, like Thomas the Tank Engine was my life as a child.
Yeah, exactly the same.
I love trains.
I had my own model railway with like little miniature 00 gauge Thomas and Annie and Clarabelle.
Yeah, nice.
She does say it's usually very crowded, but you can avoid that by reserving tickets in advance. There's also the Michael, a church with a viewing platform, and the Alster, and tons of museums like the Chocolate Museum and an art gallery. In general, Hamburg is really cool just to walk around and explore the different districts. Most of them are also quite picturesque. And then there's also the Karolinenviertel and the Schanze, street art and small shops. And then, oh god, last German word, I promise. In the park there are Wasserlichtkonzerte, waterlight concert and fountain shows. Oh, that sounds cool. But yeah, basically, yes, that's the recommendations from Sarah, who concludes her email by saying, I've still got one question. Would you be up for another short fan fiction? I promise it won't be smutty. Sorry for any mistakes, and ganz liebe Grüße, Sarah. Well, funny you should mention the fan fiction. We have one at the end of this episode. So we'll wait and see. If that puts us off fan fiction, then maybe not. But hopefully, yes.
You have a quick one here from Grace Carter. It says, Messrs. Moore and Clark, just wanted to send a short message to say thank you for all the excellent non-content. It's been brilliant listening on my 4 hours of travel to and from uni.
Oh my gosh.
As always, Team Dog, Grace, age 23 and 83 100ths.
Nice.
Nice, strong,
very strong,
solid. Thank you, Grace.
Following up, we have an email that I've been waiting for quite a while. This is from David Scahill, who is a dude in Iceland. I've actually been talking to him about trying to set up a live stream on my channel talking about mental health. I need to get on that, David. I haven't forgotten, don't worry. But yes, that's something that's coming out. And the reason that David has emailed is... I'll just read it, actually. Gentlemen, he says, I give you the Cat Cafe. This is the Cat Cafe in Reykjavik, Iceland. This beautiful coffee shop has just opened down the road from my girlfriend a little over a week ago here in Reykjavik, and it has a simple idea at its core. At any time, it has a number of resident cats from a local shelter that people can come and chat to, and, if possible, eventually adopt, should you wish. This is particularly cool as older cats are given as much of a chance as finding a home as kittens, which isn't the case normally at cats and dogs homes. I enclose photos for your perusal, and will also post them on the community page on the Patreon, where we just can find them. I've got to say, I would love to go here. I've never been to a pet cafe, but the idea of being surrounded by friendly cats who look gorgeous, it's got to be said. These are some really nice pictures. What camera are you using, David? This looks really nice. This looks amazing. Is this your idea of hell, Dan?
I mean, it looks like a nice cafe. I think it would probably be even nicer if there were less cats. But it's a nice. I like that. I really like the mural on the wall.
Yeah,
the cat with the flowers around it.
There's
cool.
a beautiful. How would you describe that art style?
It's got kind of almost like a Hindi kind of a look. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, actually, yeah. It's like a Hindi slash. Oh, who was the French artist who lived in Tahiti? Was that wasn't Matisse? Was it?
Maybe.
Hang on, Tahiti French artist. I always forget this one. It was Gauguin. I'm thinking of Gauguin.
Ah.
It looks a bit like that. But yeah, lovely mural on the wall of a cat, and then these two chandeliers either side. Yeah, I would. Oh, this is such a cool idea. So so basically, David says, I can't recommend it enough to any readers who may be coming to Iceland for a visit, as it's a cozy little spot that I'll be frequenting for the rest of my time here. Most importantly, he will finish by saying Team Dog forever. Drops mic.
Nice.
Traitor!
Solid.
TR8R.
Thanks, David. You clawed it back, if you'll pardon the pun.
And I've got a glass here. Can I make that work?
Nice. And finally, we have an email from Simon Throssell. It says, Evensong, Chuka Umuna, and Small Worlds. Dear Messrs. Clark and more. 'Twas upon a Thursday night clear when I attended an In Conversation With Chuka Umuna event at a church near Monument Station, central London. Upon arrival, I was greeted with the news that before the Q&A session was to take place, we would first be part of the congregation for the church's Evensong service. I've never attended an Evensong service before, but armed with the praise of this particular type of service received in almost every episode of the Wikicast and on Simon's PhD vlogs, I sat down on their second chair of the second row and waited for the service to begin.
And
not only was the Evensong section of the event a pleasant surprise, so were the choice of canticles. Stanford and G. Classic. It was Simon's rendition of Stanford's Nunc Dimittis at the beginning of his What I Sing Every Week vlog that made me first hit the subscribe button. Follow
really?
His and the Bass One Scholar's progress over the course of the PhD, and then tune into the Wikicast podcast once that was launched around 25 episodes ago. I would say good job on getting your PhD, but in the words of the film Whiplash, there are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job. Oh, yeah. The best of luck to the both of you in your future endeavours. Simon, age 20 and 3/12.
I mean, you are quoting there like someone who's manipulating someone in a very terrible relationship, but like it's kind of true.
The good job? Yeah,
like...
Oh, it's so true.
Like
I totally agree with it.
Sometimes it's what you need to be told. Like if you are in a very bad place, you just need that positive encouragement in terms of like making you strive towards excellence.
But you can replace that positive encouragement with more specific feedback.
I mean, yes, I suppose
feedback is good when you go away with something to learn from. Otherwise, you're in the same place where you started. Because then it's not feedback, then it's praise.
Yeah, I mean...
I think I really, really identify with that line in the film. I mean,
good job on its own is definitely, like, not enough. I definitely say that. In the same way that you just say, this is bad. Like, that's not good enough on its own.
I had a music teacher, my original director of choral music in Australia, who was absolutely fantastic. She would always insist on the feedback she would give would be, if it was good, she would tell you. and if you and if she really gave you some praise, you smashed it. But normally she would kind of be like, okay, now that's done, what do you think you can work on? And then she would pull out some points and say, this is what I think worked. These are the things that you need to go away from. And it was never just kind of like overtly like, oh, great job. So when you did get that, you knew that it was really special, and you don't just kind of take praise for granted.
Yeah. Well, okay, so
controversial, but there you go.
I just can't believe that you subscribe because of my rendition of the Stanford. It's really not that good.
Speaking of canticles, okay, I've got a bone to pick.
Here we go.
I've got a bone to pick with Dyson.
Right.
He's written Dyson in D. This is George Dyson. George Dyson, is it?
I honestly don't know.
Hang on, I'm going to have to check that because otherwise that's going to be really... George Dyson. Yeah, George Dyson. He's written Dyson in D, which is a banging tune, which my soul doth magnify the Lord, which is fab. He's also written Dyson in F. My question to him, if he could hear me now, is what a waste of your time. It is it's so boring and dull. The Nunc Dimittis lasts like literally 2 pages.
So you're complaining it's too short?
No, but it's not. No, because you can do wonderful things with short pieces of music. It's just really boring, and it sounds very much like other people. I'm really disappointed from someone who's written such a, Dyson and D, which is banging. If you hadn't heard it before, Google it or go to the University of Exeter.
I'll include it in the show notes. They'll link to the cathedral performance that we did.
Which is the first time that it's been scored for orchestra.
Yes,
by the fantastic David Davies. But yeah, Dyson and F, complete waste of time. Loathed it. We had to sing it yesterday, Evensong, and it was just rubbish. But we made up for it by singing the Walton Litany as the anthem.
I don't think I know that.
It's the drop, drop, slow tears, but not the Leighton one. So it's
right.
The sopranos have the drop, drop, drop.
Oh, okay.
It's really, he wrote it. We'll provide a link to the show notes of this as well. It's classic Walton, who's a fantastic composer, but he wrote this when he was 14.
You're kidding.
I think, and it's honestly like a masterpiece of music. It's really cool.
And now we come to the long-awaited return. Daniel, close your screen because I'm about to read you a fan fiction.
Okay.
So we've had so far the time traveler with the extraordinarily big forehead. We've had the case of the deleted pixels, and we had a one-off with us finding a tesseract in the woods. Am I missing one? Have we had another one?
We probably have.
We've had quite a few.
That many, and they were also fantastic.
Yes, they are, and we now have, in addition to this canon, we have the virtual adventures of Simon and Dan, a fan fiction story. So this has been sent to us by Cameron, who is Team Cat, incidentally. I just thought I'd plug that there. And this is a sci-fi adaptation of us. So I'm going to have to find some new music for this one. Hopefully there'll be less sex in this than there was in the last one.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. So, okay, here we go. I haven't read this yet. So, you're about to hear a fan fiction written in by a reader, The Virtual Adventures of Simon and Dan. Chapter 1. Duck! Simon yelled as he fired his blaster over the top of Dan's immense forehead.
Cheers, mate.
Strong! It's a great beginning. The bright laser was sent over the young English student and sank into the left forearm of the muscular alien on the opposite side of the long hallway. Simon hid back behind the airlock door. How did they get in the ship? Simon screamed in panic. They must have modified the teleportation code and gained... Sorry. They must have modified the teleportation code!
For God's sake. This is not... Okay, hang on. No. This is a new fan fiction.
Okay. They must have modified the teleportation code and gained access to the ship's interface.
Oh, God.
This is bad. This is really bad. Simon
this
said.
is really bad. Really bad. How meta.
We don't have time to be pointing out the obvious, Dan replied as he popped up and took another few shots at the monstrosity that was making its way towards them. The strip of light on the side of his rifle began to flash red. I'm running low, he proclaimed. God damn it, we need to get to the energy bay, Simon yelled, losing his nerve. This is written without... I'm going to have to distinguish you with that voice, I'm afraid, because otherwise there's no way of telling who's saying what. There's no.
Well, it's written as like a thing. It's a different line for each reader.
Yeah, but
it's literally written like a book.
Yeah, but it's different to do that in an audiobook. I have to do a different voice.
Oh, right.
Like reading it out. There's no way of getting past him. I have an idea, but it's a long shot. How long can you hold it off for? Sorry, mine went to inappropriate places then. 30 seconds, maybe a minute. Couple more strokes. No reply. Dan knew that Simon was good in these situations, but he still could not understand how he was going to get them out of this one. They were trapped, backs against the wall, the deep, vast darkness of space visible from the large window next to them. At least I die with a good view, Dan thought, as the light on his rifle went black. I'm out! This idea better work! He shouted back at Simon as he slumped down to the floor in acceptance of his possible fate. Your rifle's out, you're just going to give up. Like, you're not going to say, well, this is how I die.
This is the end time.
At that moment, Simon emerged from the airlock, his blaster to his head. The alien took a shot. What? Hang on. What? At that moment, Simon emerged from the airlock, his blaster to his head, like I'm about to blow my brains out. Like, don't do it or I'll shoot! The alien took a shot straight for him. Moments before the light pierced Simon's chest, he pulled the trigger and vanished. Dan looked on in horror, confused at what had just happened. Had his best friend just shot himself? Oh, I was right. I interpreted that right. How did that solve anything? Also, where was the body? Before he had time to contemplate the possibility of Simon's death, he heard a muffled gargle coming from the direction of the fight. He gathered the bravery to peek out of cover, and he saw the alien slump to the floor, lifeless. There, towering over the corpse, was Simon. How? Dan questioned. I don't know why you had such a high-pitched voice then. Sorry, mate. I'll explain later. How? I'll explain later. Right now, we need to get to the ammo bay. Simon took off running. Dan, frozen in shock and confusion, stood still for a few seconds before composing himself, in G, and following after Simon. They made their way through God, I can't fucking talk. They made their way through the futuristic maze, shots ricocheting off the walls next to them. They weren't out of the mud yet. They made it to the ammo bay. Dan ran in, quickly popped out his energy cell and shoved a new one in the back of his rifle. Simon grabbed a few power grenades, I like how you can make anything space-like if you just put power in front of it. It's like how in Star Wars you have hyper anything, like hyper calendar, hyper fork. Simon grabbed a few power grenades, pushed the charge button on one and launched it through the air back down the hall. Dan sent an emergency teleportation request to the nearby starbase using his gauntlet. You had a gauntlet this entire time?
Oh, yeah.
Ah, nice. 5 minutes, then we're gone. We might survive this yet.
That's genuinely the worst accent I've ever heard in my life. It's truly, truly abysmal.
I grew up on Neighbours. I'm not used to proper Australians. I'm used to the soap opera versions. He let Simon know, then took position on the opposite side of the doorway and opened fire on the aliens which had just turned around the corner. Oh, yeah, that's it. I was
to be continued.
I have to admit, I wasn't expecting that to end quite so abruptly. Also, I just shot myself in the head and then teleported, apparently.
I like this. I was really hoping for some sci-fi, I must admit.
Yeah.
If anyone's going to write anything else in, I'll tell you what I also love. A fantasy-esque.
I knew you were going to say
kind
that.
Of a so I want to be some kind of wizard or mage. Simon, do you have any requests for what your class would be?
What would my class be?
You'd be like a barbarian or a warrior.
Why would I be a barbarian? Fuck off.
Well, that was your role in Diablo.
Oh yeah, I was Harambe. I was a crusader. You were Bathilda Bagshot the witch, and I was Harambe the crusader.
That's right.
I mean, I love the idea of being a really dense priest class, and like I have a massive hammer,
like a cleric,
and everything looks like a nail to me. It's just like, I don't know, if we're in a fantasy setting, like the gods will decide our fate, and I like smash the bridge that we're on, and it's like,
See, it says a lot about your kind of like how much you play fantasy games, because you'd be like, yeah, I want to be like a dense priest with a hammer, and then I'm just kind of sitting here quietly being like, so you'd be a heavy armor class wearing cleric with a mace in your main hand.
In my head, I'm a warrior priest from the Warhammer Fantasy setting. It's just like any possible scenario that involves like any kind of subtlety I am not good at. It's like I don't know, you are required to infiltrate a society ball and they're offering you a goblet of wine. Would you care for a wine, sir? By the Emperor, I would. Like,
meanwhile, me as a mage class, I'm just sitting in the corner of this bar just reading.
Yeah.
Being like, oh, for fuck's sake, he's at it again.
We've got to help deliver this baby.
Amazing.
Stand aside! My hammer will do the trick! No! Yes. So,
by God's hammer, I will! Like, no, stop.
For the Emperor! Yeah, someone please write that. I'd love especially if you can make it in the Warhammer Fantasy universe. I'd read that every week. I don't even care what Dan says. I would edit that in every week.
Oh, I'd be up for that. That'd be cool.
It'd be like Vermintide, but just Dan and I. Okay, so after all that excitement, Dan, what have we learned today?
Well, we kicked things off with Mehmed the Conqueror.
Yeah!
Muhammad al-Fatih the Conqueror. Muhammad II.
Proper lad.
Massive lad and scary man.
Yes.
Killed Dracula, was a bit of a pedo. Just, he's ticking all the boxes of someone who makes for an interesting article. We spent a long time discussing him.
We did.
His weird sexual escapades, his legacy. Very, very interesting dude.
And then we talked about ourselves for like half an hour.
Yeah, we had a really meta conversation about celebrity and how the podcast works, and just kind of reminisced on why we think that we make a fairly acceptable duo as hosts.
Yeah, a wholesome and adequate podcast. That's
exactly
what we're aiming
wholesome and adequate.
And then after that, we didn't have much to talk about in Critics Corner, but I was talking about the Google Home. You were talking about the Jesuado 6.
And the upcoming concert with Exeter University Singers and Harmonics on the 27th of March at the Mary Harris Chapel, probably starting around 8.
Plug.
Details to follow. And
then we had possibly the most exciting and least accurate rugby match in history between Wales and Australia. This has been a terrible episode for accents. It's mostly due to me, so apologies, everyone. But we thought it would be funny.
And then we skipped out on Agony Uncle because we had so much correspondence for you guys.
Please,
which was a joy.
I'd specifically encourage people to send in their crises, their problems to be read out and anonymised, because I think that might be my favourite section of the podcast. We actually get to delve deep on a particular issue, and we actually try and be helpful. So do send in your emails with Crisis Corner in the subject line, because I personally really look forward to doing those. However, that's all for this week's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to us on your podcasting service of choice. You can like us on Facebook, and if you'd like to see our faces in very few videos, check out our YouTube channel, Spongy and Electric.
Fantasy fanfiction, crises for Crisis Corner, and other thoughts on the show can be sent to us at spongyelectric@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Join us again for another tumble down the wiki rabbit hole, and we'll see you next time.
Right, I'm going to stop recording now.
I really hope we don't have many listeners in Wales.